Hi there, everybody.
Hey, welcome to week 2 of our Brandcasters client call.
Sorry, my voice is a little rough today, but
Both
I've
of
done
ours, really.
yeah, well, besides like kids have got colds and everything here, but I've been like on 4 webinars this weekend. And I just did a social media
Masterclass.
masterclass on Wednesday, right? On Wednesday? Or was it
Was it
yesterday?
yesterday? Might have
I
been.
don't
It
know.
was
Look,
Thursday. It
it
was
was
Thursday.
Thursday,
And that
yesterday.
was on Facebook, and you can go find that on the Feed Your Brand Facebook page if you didn't see it or you'd like to check it out.
And so anyway, we also are going to put it into the podcast because there was such great response from it. So there's a slide share too, so make sure you click the link to download that.
And actually, I was just told it's also in the resources section of our customer dashboard at podcaststarpoint.com, which actually you all should know. Your links will always work, but podcaststarpoint.com, where you log into the dashboard, is migrating to pod.ad as our new URL because of the advertising function of being able to put ads in. So we'll let you all know more about that later, but just in case you see it, don't panic.
Yeah, and so just a kind of reference, what we're trying to do with all of these client calls and some of the other things that we did, like the social media class, it's not a class about how to use social media or how to like post on Facebook or anything like that. It's really how I organize us here with our podcast so that I can proliferate and get out with my team that many messages a week, and how I organize those messages and all of those different things that might be on the organizational side or the tactical planning side of things, the strategic planning side of things, and then also how I measure that. And so, because for me, if it's not converting, it's just work. I mean, I don't want to do more work than I need to. So that's my ultimate goal, and that's our ultimate goal here with you, is to help you get organized in any way, shape, or form. So today we're really going to talk about guest invitations and organizing your guests through the whole process so that it does it for you, so that there's very little work for you. And or if you want to use a VA, so it organizes your virtual assistant for you. I forget sometimes that I use acronyms, and then some people are like, what's that? So trying to demystify all of that.
Yeah, this is intended to, at least once monthly for this call, and then like we did the Facebook, class stream, which anybody could see. Obviously, these are just for clients. These webinars on the last Friday of every month is really to go over tips, best practices, any things that are changing.
Yep.
Whether that's with podcast system, like Apple recently changed with iOS 11, a lot of things that are relevant and important to podcasts, or if Google changes something in their algorithms. This is a place where we're going to talk about anything that we think is important for you to know, and it gives you a chance to ask questions about things that may have come up for you within the last month that maybe you haven't had time to email about, or you'd rather have a live answer. So I like this subject today, Tracy, because we have a few clients that are very organized. Yes. In preparing their, what they want to record, whether it's their own shows or the guests that they want to interview. And we see a lot of people making their own spreadsheet, whether that's in Google Sheets or their own actual Excel spreadsheet, where they organize a lot of this information. And we understand that, but there's also some best practices we want to share about soliciting guests, how to get them to do most of the work and providing you the information that you need on who they are, their bio, their links to their sites, their social media links, all that sort of stuff. And then also suggestions for if you communicate with them via email. We have some things to share with you on that as well.
Right, right. So let's talk a little bit about how we organize this and how we're going to go through this today. So number one thing that we do is we have an editorial calendar. We plan, and we really kind of go through and think about this. And we like to do it at least a couple of months ahead of time, a minimum 30 days ahead of time.
Yeah,
so in other words,
plan at least a month out if you're not gonna end up recording haphazardly and having
be behind the 8 ball and like
or oh my gosh, I don't have one for this week.
Right, exactly. So we plan that out also because you need to give your guests notice, right? You need to invite them so that they can schedule on on their best time that works for them and the best time that works for you. So that's one of the things that we do, is we plan this editorial calendar. So if we're going to record next week some guest episodes we usually record in the first week of the month if we can, and if we're traveling, then we shift it a little bit. But we plan to always record at least 1 to 2 days in the first week of the month, and then we'll offer up a third day somewhere else in the middle of the month in case just someone wasn't available, or we have someone fell through or something happened. We want to make sure we always have a backup date ready. And so we plan 3 total dates across the month that we record. We don't record on just any date in the month, and that's part of our organizational structure. It's how we get it so it doesn't overwhelm us and it doesn't take over our calendar and our schedule.
Yeah, and we had it happen actually just recently where we had a guest who only 15 or 20 minutes before the scheduled time for the interview, they had to cancel last minute. Something came up, and that happens. So then we formulate that. I mean, we then offer them up rather that additional date as an option. We try not to do it because we don't want to disrupt the rest of the month's workflow, but it depends on how important the guest is. If it's important to you, to accommodate them. But in general, we don't let guests drive our recording schedule.
Right. You're doing them a favor. This is publicity, right? They should be glad to be on your show. They're not doing you a favor. And so we got to keep that in mind, that this is good publicity for them and that they should go around your schedule. I'm an ink columnist, and I demand that they schedule on my time, my available time. So that's kind of where approach that way, and it'll make it a lot more a lot easier to handle. It'll seem less overwhelming to you. Right. So again, we plan this editorial calendar. We think about who we want to invite as guests. We do have a virtual assistant who will research some things for us and go out there and say, oh, there's someone new doing this. And so because the 3D printing portion of our business is not the primary job that we have, we needed somebody else to help us research it. For Feed Your Brand, we know exactly who we want to invite, or product launching, we know exactly who we want to invite because these are the people we're interacting with and networking with every day. They're the high value people in our industry, so we know what we're doing there. And is it next week that next week there'll be an episode with Jennifer Spencer, and talking about guest influencers, and she's talking about it from the perspective of finding a good guest, and so there's an episode out on that, and we just recently did one on how to get guests, right? Didn't we do one on our podcast?
I think we did.
So there's a couple of episodes out there if you want some more information on that. But then we solicit those guests, right? So we've got them planned, we have our list, and here's the thing. A lot of people leave this to their assistant, and I found it to be over time a failure. It takes longer, it's a waste of time. The guest that you want to invite gets insulted that you didn't personally invite them, especially if you happen to know them or they're in your network. So I find that it's the easiest way is to reach out and just send in the standard email, like have a draft of it, have it ready to go. I substitute a couple of things and it's fairly simple. Tom, you've got it, so you could read off what our solicitation email looks like.
Sure. Yeah. No. I mean, we'll
get a copy to you.
Oh, and actually, most clients should have received a copy of this at some point in their setup, but it's also going to be available in our resource section of our site.
Right.
So really, guest solicitation email example, we just have some standard copy. This is if you really probably don't know them, right? It's like, hey, greetings, my name is Tom Hazard, and this is actually written as though it's an assistant,
right,
who's writing it. So my name is, Jane Smith, and I'm the assistant for Tom Hazard of the Feed Your Brand podcast. And then we do usually put in a specific sentence about the proposed subject or topic that we intend to record with them.
Which is why it goes back to that editorial calendar. When we think about the guests that we were going to invite, we also think about the topic we want to cover with them. So while we know that they may have general experience and they may be just great to chit chat with, and that's going to be wonderful, we still want to focus it so that we're getting across one major topic and message, or one major set of questions. Now, sometimes in the conversation, they're doing something so new that we never heard of before, and it goes awry. That's okay. We're flexible because we haven't set this in stone. It's just it's a plan, right? It's flexible. So anyway, but what I also do with the solicitation of the guests, and so this is a good way to do it, is I find LinkedIn. LinkedIn is probably one of the best ways.
Oh, sure.
And so if you don't know someone, rather than having your assistant do it, which is a way to say, hey, would you be interested? And especially when you're going into a corporation trying to find the right person within a company, the assistant's the way to go.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're trying to go direct, I just friend them on, I message them on LinkedIn, and I connect with them, of course. And if they're really somebody high profile, I get them to notice me ahead of time. So I start commenting on their post, even though they're not connected to me. So I might do that for a couple of weeks before I then ask for the connection and then message them. And now I don't seem like someone they don't know. They actually think they know me. And so that's how that works for me. So it's really I've never had a failure. I've always had someone say, now that scheduling is another thing. Sometimes they're not always available on the schedule you want, but I've never had them say no. So that's one of the ways that I find the best way to get through it. You could try it on Facebook, but I just don't find it as successful there.
Sure. And then, I want to just finish up on this solicitation email. Basically, this is, again, someone you don't know. It's like, hey, we'd like to know if you would like to, if you'd be willing to be interviewed on our podcast. And once you confirm that you're willing to be a guest, we'll send you another email with a link to schedule your interview on our online booking calendar. And this is a very important tool we're going to highly recommend all you use if you're not already.
Right.
And so please let me know if you have any questions in the meantime, and I look forward to hearing back from you. That's, one example of that first guest solicitation email.
So there's a reason why that link isn't in that, because sometimes we don't know if they're going to be a right fit, and we want to get a little background, and we might want to get a little more information. So we're connecting back and forth with them to make sure that that they are going to take the initiative. Because if they don't take the initiative and we have to keep pushing them, we also don't. We don't want them to also sub it out to some junior assistant to be on the podcast if we're inviting them. So we always want to build this dialogue and relationship going back and forth, and so then we send them the link after they've responded.
Right, and that's our guest scheduling. We have an email example for that. We're excited to have you come on to the Feed Your Brand podcast to schedule. Simply, go to this booking link, select a day that's available, and of course on our calendar, and this is a key tip, there's only 2 days available per month on the calendar. They can only book on the days that we're willing to record. We restrict that.
We restrict it, yeah. So here we go. I'm going to share my screen, and I'm going to show you.
I think it's a great idea. They should see how we do that.
So it says main screen, just a window.
No, you're already showing it.
Oh, I'm showing it. Okay,
yeah.
We're in Google Chrome. Okay, so you can see what you're seeing here, and I got to move it out of the way so I can see it. What you're seeing here is our Basecamp. That's what we use because we use it with our product clients. So we build a whole Basecamp, and it's kind of our way of using projects. If you don't know what that is, it's kind of a project management software. But what we like it for is otherwise you end up with like tons of emails that you don't know who sent them, when sent them. We forced it all into the Basecamp, so it's an email trail. And so we do use this with the episodes as well. So you can see we've planned out, this is WTFFF from March. I'm just showing it to you because it's full. We planned out some blogs we were going to do that are separate. Sometimes we do that. We used to do an occasional replay. It didn't go over so well, so we stopped doing that in February. But you can see what we do here is we planned out an episode. We've titled it, we've given it the number, we've given it the date that it's going to air. It's getting emailed to some of the people in the team. We also have some comments here, which is where it sends you over to that. And this is where we put the bio information, any photos they send us, anything that they've sent us via email gets dumped here so that our team can use it. And then you'll see this is where those wonderful headers that you get created. Well, for us, they were here because this was early on, and that's why I'm showing it to you here. But for us, this was created for us, and we used to drop this in before the team did this portion for us. And so that's where that went. And so anyway, back to the calendar so you can see that. So we do that, plan out the whole month, and as we're recording, we're in here, and we'll fix the title.
Yep.
And we'll add
look, here's guest information that we added just to remind ourselves so that we have a place that we can, where we've recorded this ahead of time or either before the interview or during the interview. And then when we go to submit this episode for production, everything's in one place. And when you go to the customer dashboard, you have to enter in all those, web links, bio information, stuff like that. You can go and copy here from Basecamp or your calendar. It could be Google Calendar. Could be a number of different tools, and then paste it into your episode request. And it's all just right there for you.
Right. And so for us here, this is where we specify the title. So we'll change them when we're recording in case, you know, the messaging changed, right? So in case as we were recording it, we go, wow, that doesn't fit anymore. Let's change the title. So it isn't until we've recorded this that it goes final. And then for you would go from here to the dashboard and enter it from there. So, and then, so from there, we invite the guest, as the email per Tom told you, and we send them here. Now we have one that has for all three of them, but we also have individual links that will take you just to one of the podcasts. I'm just happen to show you how it works here so you can just see how it looks. So if you were to schedule on Feed Your Brand podcast interview, you would go here and it shows you all the available time slots. I hope there's actually time slots available.
It will. It'll show you.
Oh, look, there's only one date. So October, yeah.
30th.
And let's see what's in November, just to take a look. Yeah, so here there's more, but that's because we're filling. So we're about to fill, so I opened up a lot in November. Yeah, so we would they will just pick a time, and it tells you it's in their time zone. And so for us, we also have this form, and this is really what I encourage you to do.
This is a great tip.
Yeah, this is where you don't have to like scramble, make sure you have the bio, make sure you go back and forth. We actually require a lot of this information. There's stars by things that are required, but their name, their email, their company, their Skype contact name, the website, their bio, their headshot, their Facebook, LinkedIn, Pinterest link, YouTube link, anything that we might need. They don't have to fill out all of those, but if they have them, they do. The topics that what should we ask you about, right? And anything else we should know that we didn't already know. And so when they click that and are done, it sends that to our team, and our team will load that into Basecamp for us, and or just load it straight into the episode when it's ready. They just have that on hand, ready to go.
But also, you should know, in terms of how Schedule Once works, this obviously makes a calendar appointment on our not just on our Basecamp calendar. It makes it in your Google Calendar or your iCal or your Outlook calendar. Yeah. You can have it, fill and populate that information there, and all of this information that they've entered is in that calendar record. So whatever normal calendar you use on a daily basis, Outlook or iCal, whatever.
If I popped up my calendar, you would be able to see that, all of that in that description there, including the link, including the Skype names, and including the information we send back to them. So here's some of the things. So like what you're going to see here is that there are, and I'm going to have to do it, notifications. I think I have to go to the notification template. There we go. So they get notifications from here, and so this allows us to give them prep tips and other things. So after the booking is made, there's all these the follow-up messages, the customer notification. I think that's the one I want. Yeah, there we go. So we have customer follow-up. Is that right? Oh no, that was the bookings. That was the no, they already did that. So here, customer reminder. It's going to be under here. Okay. So the prep tips are here. So here you go. Feed Your Brand prep tips. Now you should have the copy of this email already that you guys have done. Boy, that's not letting me go down. So so basically, this is where we have prep tips, and this is really important because we want to make sure they're prepared, right? So that the recording sounds good, right? So we remind them again that if they didn't provide the bio and all that stuff, because those weren't required fields, and I don't require them because sometimes they get lazy and won't book because they just don't have that in front of it and they're booking on their phone. So I don't want them to not have their headshot as the reason they didn't book the appointment with us. But here is the reminder that they need to email it, and here's the email address. hello@brandcastingu.com is where they need to send it to, and we just added into the overall organization of the program. So unfortunately, it's not then in this calendar link, but that's okay. So we remind them that if they haven't done it, we also remind them to connect to us. You can remind them to review the podcast, which is a great idea if that's what you would like them to go do. Make sure they've listened to it. But here's the powerful stuff. Here's the stuff we want them to be prepared for. And also it cuts off a lot of the phone calls from the reeling nervous Nellies who it happens all the time that there's someone who's like totally never did a podcast interview before. They're so nervous about it. And or their corporate organization wants to know exactly how everything proceeds because they're controlling all the press and everything like that. So this is our process, and we make sure you're accustomed to Skype, make sure you are using a computer instead of a phone, find earbuds or headset without a microphone.
That's ideal.
That's ideal.
Although with a mic will still work.
Yeah, but this way, if they have a problem, they usually will resolve it. They'll usually go find one because they have this ahead of time. If you have a good USB microphone, please use it. And just some tips for turning off the notifications. It just makes it easier when we sit down to go record, that they've kind of read through this and they're like, oh, I'm ready. I've done all that. I'm ready to go. And so that's really how we do it. And then there will also be the reminder down here of the dates, times, reminders that they can add it to their calendar if they haven't already, and there's more of the information that they've entered.
So I just want to make sure this is clear to everybody. This is all set up through Schedule Once. Schedule Once actually sends these out, and you create these templates.
And you decide when it's going to go out. So this goes out 48 hours before the scheduled time that they'll be there. It doesn't go out ahead of time. It goes out 48 hours. This is the follow-up message that will go after we've recorded, which we also do. We follow up with them and we thank them, and we remind them to follow the links on iTunes and Stitcher and leave us a review, right? We also recommend them to go to feedyourbrand.co, look at the podcast blog posts and things like that, and so that's where they'll be able to link to see it and things like that. So we give them a lot of this information, and what I find happens, which is really kind of funny, is that people don't really realize all the time that it's an auto message. Yeah. And I get like my ink one, because this is the one that happens all the time. And so, it says this and it gives them all this, and they'll send me back and they'll go, oh, here's my Facebook page and my Twitter profile, and oh my gosh, I had so much fun, thank you. And like, you get a really personal message back. So even though it is a generic message, I find it's relationship building. So it actually really works for us.
Well, to me, anything you can automate in the process of guest solicitation, guest communication, collecting the information, is just going to make your life easier. It sure does make our life, our conducting all these interviews for our various podcasts now manageable in reality.
Yeah.
Now, Tracy, I'm bet that some of our clients might be thinking, well, I already have a calendar program I use on my computer. Why wouldn't I just use that for organizing all my editorial calendar like we do on Basecamp?
You can, absolutely. It's just that I found that it was busy. It overwhelmed my Google Calendar, and like you constantly had to shut it down, and so I like the separation of it, and I like to be able to keep my podcast from overwhelming my core business and have me go into it when I'm ready to. But that's me. If you want everything visually and all in one place and all ready for you, then do that. But I just want to say we use Schedule Once for a specific reason. We use it because there's two of us, and it needs to check the free time between the two of us. And so because my calendar is busy and I have my own appointments that I'm booking, and Tom has his own that he's booking, and so we have a lot more complex calendar. So if you have if you have a co-host situation, or you have a VA you want to include into your, or assistant, or a manager, or production manager, whatever you want to include in the process that you're doing, you may want to have a more sophisticated calendar like this set up for you. But you can use Calendly, which is free, and there's a whole bunch of them that you can put these questionnaires against. So it's just super easy to manage that portion of it. They all have notification messages. Some of them aren't as sophisticated. It like auto does it like 24 hours, and you don't have choices when they send them out. But for the most part, they all have them.
Yeah, I think that for a lot of you podcast hosts out there, and it's just you as the only host, you may be able to use a free one like Calendly with no problem. But like Tracy said, there just are some inherent complexities, not only in having both of our schedules, and although we do have some new customers that are co-host situation, or maybe even a what do you call it when it's three hosts? Is it still co-host?
Tri-host?
I think it's still
multi-host.
It's just two co-hosts. Or three co-hosts. I don't know. But anyway,
well, they are
if you're organizing if you're organizing three of you, that would even be more important. But I think it also, the fact that we're recording 3 different podcasts, I think that also had something to do with it, because we need a different booking page for each podcast with its own identity and logos, and we don't necessarily tell everybody we have 3 podcasts. They just think we have 1.
Right, yeah. We don't always send them to the multiple link page. That I just was showing you that because it's that sophisticated. You can do that. But for us, like, I might do this. Like, I might send somebody to a single page for me, but I also might send them to the page at which they could book an ink interview. They could book just a straight call with me. They could book a product interview. Like there's a bunch of different things that I do, and it's just easier for me to remember the one URL and send it all to everyone. But I do have some that I just keep separated because I don't want them to be able to book in any of my calendars. I only want them to book in a restricted calendar. And so by separating them, it gives me the ability to restrict those calendar dates availability. Otherwise, you have to block your calendar out on your Google end. And so I don't like to do that. Now, Calendly does have you can schedule only specific days. I've done that before. But it's a little more complex. You have to go into it, and you can only do it once for one particular, it has to work for the particular event, you call it. It's like an event.
Yeah, for us, I really do like schedule once, and there is a cost to it.
Oh yeah, and we've gone like it way exceeded. Like originally, I think we were paying like $49 a month for it, and now we pay almost $150 because we have so many complex three businesses actually, and so much complexity and multiple calendars going through it. So it ends up costing you. And when but they have app integrations like Infusionsoft, Zapier, and that's really where the cost does to go up. And then one other thing is you can take. Although I just saw an email about it this morning, Calendly is allowing you to take payments as well. So I don't know if their payment integration is through PayPal, but the payment integration through Schedule Once, you can do a connect. So when I book a strategy appointment for product design, I charge them $1,500. They pay through the calendar link, so they can't even book with me unless they paid. And so we do that. Now it does cost because Schedule Once takes a cut and then PayPal takes a cut, but I find the convenience of it and that way we don't have this email back and forth. It's a lot more immediate. I get paid immediately and I get scheduled immediately, and so I find it to be just efficient.
And to me, the Zapier integration is really important because anybody who books one of those type of appointments that's out, it's not usually a podcast guest, I'd have to say, but if you are also booking other kinds of appointments in your consulting business or your real estate investment business or whatever your business is, you're booking appointments with prospective customers, it can zap and integrate all that information they enter that you ask them to fill out on the on your form into your CRM database, your sales database.
Yeah, so that's a combination of Zapier and Infusionsoft integration, but you can also do it where it's just sending you the email response that they booked and here's all the information they entered. You can just even go and have that zapped into a file folder that is being kept for you on a Google Doc or on a Google Drive. And so that way it's there for your virtual assistant, or it's there when you're ready to go grab it down and then add it to your dashboard entry when you record the episode.
And I know some of this, some of you watching this, and especially if you're watching it recorded when you can't ask a question now at this point, but you may be thinking, wow, this sounds really complicated. I'm going to need like an employee or an assistant to figure all this out. Well, it's really, it sounds complicated, and there are lots of layers to it and lots of things you could take advantage of, but it's really just a one-time setup situation. Once you get this set up, it just does it for you, which that is the whole point. That's really what we're trying to share with you.
Yeah, and Schedule Once, for instance, and Calendly, they both have video tutorials about how to set up. So it's like actually really easy. It used to be a lot harder. I think when I first started Schedule Once for us, it was a couple of years ago, and the dashboard didn't look half as nice as it does now, and there's all these things like, I don't understand what this was for, and you were ending up going all over the place trying to set something up properly. But now it's a lot clearer as to how to do it, and there are these video tutorials. So all of them have gotten a lot better at it, and it should be really easy for you to have someone set it up for you or set it up for yourself. And then the one last thing then we do obviously is the EgoBait, right? So the EgoBait email. Now that's coming out of our system. That doesn't come out of this as a response from our Schedule Once. Right. That's coming out of the dashboard system because it needs to have the episode link completed. So the episode has to be uploaded and the blog post has to be live, and all of that has to happen. So all of you should have gotten an email from Alexandra. Yep, she's saying, nodding yes. She should have gotten an email from her with your copy, with the graphic that
proposed template.
Please feel free to like mess with this, make it yours. This is your email that you're going to send out. It needs, if you want it to sound exactly like you, rewrite the whole thing.
Absolutely.
It does not matter to us because this is the standard email. It will get sent out, and we're just suggesting some copy here. that would be appropriate for you. So thank you again for taking time to do an interview with us. The blog post for your episode can be found here. You can download the new unique graphic image here. And so it's giving them everything that they need in one place, and it's giving them in it so that there isn't a mistake in the code, the links, the graphics. All of that is all done properly, and because it's automatically done out of our system for them. So there's none of this, oh, you typed it wrong, and autocorrect. That happens too. I see that all the time. We had that problem when I was doing the code, the old-fashioned way, until we built our code generator. We were doing it the old-fashioned way. All of a sudden, it was autocorrecting from double quotes to single quote, and it was like, and I couldn't figure out why it wasn't working because the quotes were still there, or so I thought. But your eye doesn't always see that. So anyway, this is like an easy way to do it, but make it yours. If you don't love the graphic, if you don't love the colors, just our team will redo those for you till you get it right. But you need to authorize those before you do your next episode. You want this stuff to go out. You want to start using it, because otherwise you have to remember to email and thank your guest.
And I'll tell you what, for a while, that was my responsibility with
our
podcast. And I would get emails 2 weeks later from a guest that said, hey, I saw my episode was up. You know, I was like, oh, no, I forgot to email them. I just get so busy, as I'm sure a lot of you do.
Yep.
So
your assistant goes on vacation and you don't realize that they do this and you haven't done it, and so that's really where this stuff goes wrong. And you're not getting the most power, the most share power, the most influence. You're not getting that if you don't do this great follow-up. And this is where I see, you know, we spend so much money and so much time and energy on doing new programs and getting them set up, but our follow-through sucks. It does. I know we get busy. That's that marketing roller coaster, right? We get so busy, we forget that how important these things are, and they have an ongoing residual benefit that we don't want to lose. But I'm busy, just like you guys, and I don't want to have, if I can do it in an automated way, I'm going to do that. And so that's what we wanted to talk with you about here, because I feel like some of you guys are still doing it very manually, and it feels labor intensive, and this whole thing should feel easy. It should feel like you've recorded, you're done. Like, it should be that easy.
And, you know, the other reason we suggest automating a lot of this, and why we've built in this automatic guest communication right into our dashboard system to help do it for you, and you don't have to take advantage of it. You don't have to use it, but it's there for you to use. Here's a good reason. I can give you an example why. We used to have an assistant named Grace who was with us for, I don't know, a year and a half, 2 years, something like that.
Yeah, quite a while.
And not only did we train her, but then she trained herself in what to do.
She came up with all these systems.
Set up the emails, the different, a lot of the email templates that we have to provide to you that are in the resource section came originally from what she had set up. And then we sanitized it so it wasn't in our brand and you enter your brand here type of thing. But then, you know, Grace's husband is in the military. And he got deployed to some other part of the world, and she worked remotely for a while, but eventually it just wasn't really what she wanted to do, and she decided to move on and leave. And now we have to go through the headache of training a whole nother assistant to do all this stuff. That's the reason why I know some of you do have assistants, and we communicate with you, and that's great. I'm glad, you know, you have an assistant employing somebody. That's a wonderful thing. But everything is temporary. At some point, that person may not be with you. And the more you can automate for using something like Schedule Once for soliciting and collecting information from your guests, and the more you can use automated communication back to them from Schedule Once or from our system, guest communication system, when your episode publishes, the more you can automate, the better off you're going to be, and the fewer headaches or problems you're going to have as things change in the future, because they probably will change.
And also I feel like a lot of people are spending a whole lot more time managing their virtual assistants, coming up with whatever it is, or remembering to, I see it all the time, it happens all the time, and someone will pick up their phone and just send a voice message straight to their virtual assistant. Oh, send such and such an email, or oh my gosh, I forgot, did you send out this response? And so if that's you, that's too much work.
I agree.
Yeah, simplify that. So I don't know. I think that's all we have today, right? So
I think it
preparing
is.
for that sort of guest management and really making it smooth and you're doing the guest a favor by really being organized about it. It makes you look professional, makes them be excited about the show, makes them really happy to share, and it makes them excited to suggest another guest, which is something that I highly recommend you do, which is go and ask them for who else would make a really good guest on the show.
Mm-hmm.
And so if that's what you're struggling with, ask.
Now, despite your best effort, some guests still will not have read every detail of the email. And the number one thing I still want to stress that every one of you needs to ask when your guest comes on, when you're connected with them over Skype or Zencastr, is, are you using a headset?
Yeah.
Make sure that is the number one cardinal rule. Even if they don't have a good microphone like this, they can use the mic that's on the computer right there. It will be fine. But if they're not separating what they're hearing from what their microphone is hearing, that's where you have technical problems. And I know this is not the technical day for, going over recording training, but it's an important part of guest preparation.
It's the reason why you sound like you're in an EXO box. It's the reason why you have bad audio. And the last thing you really want is, you don't want that audio caused by your guest. I mean, this is where we see, like with Blog Talk Radio, when you hear Blog Talk Radio, it's because a lot of those guests are dialing in that it sounds so bad. They'll be over their phone. There's all these background noise. There's all this stuff, and they're not separating that out because they're not doing it that way. And so that doesn't sound good. It doesn't make you sound good, and it doesn't make them feel like they're on a professional show. And so we want to be able to do the best we can with your audio, and doing just that one question and getting that going at the start of it is the most important thing you can do when you set up with your guest. And one last thing I should mention, we always plan an hour, even though the interview, I hear some people go like, oh, I only book half-hour appointments. Yeah,
could be tight.
There's technical difficulties. So what I do, we set up the expectation that it's going to be no more than an hour
of total time.
But we want to allow technical problems at the beginning, and we want to allow, and you want to do this because this is your chance to network with those guests. You want to allow a little chit chat while the file's uploading at the end, and it gives you a chance to say, hey, I heard you were organizing this great event. I would love to find out some more information about it, and I really am interested in your audience, and this is how we get invited to speaking events, right? That happens all the time like that.
Sure.
Right? So this is your chance to establish a relationship with this high-powered guest you just invited on your show. So take advantage of it. Don't cut it short.
Yep. I find 5 to, at the worst case, 15 minutes of time gets burned just making sure they've selected the right microphone input in Zencastr, that they're using a headset. Sometimes they think they're in a room that should be fine, and we're listening to it like, oh my gosh, there's
it's like an echo chamber,
a soft surface anywhere in that room. Sometimes they'll, we let them know, well, it's not the best. Is there another room you could move to pretty quickly? And a lot of times there is. Sometimes there's not, and we go with it. At some point you have to decide you're either going to record the guest or you're not. So you got to deal with sometimes what you have to deal with. But you burn up 5 to 15 minutes just getting set up, getting ready, and then you're actually recording. And then ideally, usually an interview, a half an hour, if it's a really good guest that has a lot of good stuff, it is enough. And sometimes it'll stretch more. But I would say usually we're spending 45 minutes of time out of that hour recording our average interview.
Yeah.
If
Absolutely.
it's a really in-depth interview or we've had particular challenges, then we'll use that full hour. But that's about it.
Right. And remember, this is your show. So if it was really bad and if they were a terrible guest,
you don't have to air it.
You don't have to air it. It's your choice. It's your
prerogative.
prerogative.
You don't have to submit it to us. I mean, our team works some miracles sometimes, saving some bad audio and making
if it's a bad interview, that's different, right?
Bad interview, you wouldn't want to air it, right? But if it's a technical challenge, we can deal with a lot. Sometimes
and you can always blame it on a technical challenge. We had this happen recently, right? Tom got on
my gosh.
And he was awful. And
and none of you know who he is, and he's never going to see this video. I'm not going to say his name, just out of, there's no reason to bash the guy, but he wanted to read a script verbatim. He gave me ahead of time the list of questions he wanted me to ask him, which I really don't do. But I said, well, let me connect with him anyway and see how this is going to go, see if I can do this my way. And when I asked him questions, it threw him off, and he really just wanted to go back to reading his script, and it was so contrived. It was not going to be my show, it was going to be his. There was a little happy accident in that he did have a problem with one of his pieces of equipment. The microphone or headset he was using had some serious problems, and so we ended up ending the call. But the reality is, I never rebooked it with him because
we never sent him back a link to reschedule.
Show that I wanted to have, and I just, as far as he's concerned, it fell through the cracks, or my schedule's gotten so busy, whatever. He hasn't really pushed to come back, and honestly, I really don't want to interview him after that experience. It was it's too bad, but it's the way it is.
So anyway, so you can always blame it on bad technical difficulties. Oops, lost your interview. I'm so sorry, right?
Yeah, something must have been wrong with your computer. Your track is completely silent, and you know that rarely actually happens, but it has happened like once out of 500 episodes, or maybe twice. But
yeah,
you can always.
That's why we have call backup.
Get out of it. Yeah. You want to
so well,
anyway.
You know, hey guys, send us some messages because we're not sure what we want to talk about next month, and next month is going to be a little odd because the Friday that we would normally do this on is the Friday after Thanksgiving, so we've moved it up to the Monday, Alex? Monday in the week? Yep, Alex is nodding yes.
The week of Thanksgiving.
The week of Thanksgiving.
But the Monday, okay.
But the Monday,
great.
And that's okay. You know, we know we're recording this, so you could watch it when you're bored with your family and, you know, whatever. You're turkey comatose and you want to catch up on your, you know, what to do with your podcast.
Maybe it's while you're flying somewhere
for
Thanksgiving. But yeah, last time we did this, we had several people live, and I know I got an email from one or two of you that registered who, you know, just weren't able to be here live. That's going to happen, but we're going to do this anyway. We're going to keep trying to provide you more value and help you make your show as good as it can be.
Yeah, and this is not public stuff. This is for you guys, our
clients
only. So we were keeping this private to you, and that's why we're doing it this way. It's always going to be in the resource section, so we invite you to go there and check it out. And of course, you have your links that are being sent to you in email, so you'll be able to get them there as well. So. And
just in case there's anybody who has not noticed it or doesn't realize it, there is a Help Resources button right on your customer user dashboard. Where you go to make your new episode requests and upload them, that's where you would go to get it, and that's why it's private. Nobody can get there unless they have a login to our dashboard.
Yeah, so send us some messages about what you guys would like to talk about next month, because we would love this to make this, I mean, this is all about you, so we want to make it as useful and helpful as possible to you. So what would you guys like to talk about? Send us a message. We look forward to that. You can send that to hello@brandcastingu.com, or you can send us a message on Facebook. You know where we are, so you'll find us.
We have gotten a couple of suggestions for future ones already, Tracy. And,
I didn't know that.
We did, and we're planning that. This one was sort of already planned for what we're doing, but we have some suggestions, and we're going to be getting to those for sure.
Okay.
So.
Sounds really good. Well, until next time, guys, have a great weekend, and we will talk to you soon. Bye.
Bye.